Hey guys, it's Rogaway here and I'm back with another tutorial, and today we are talking about gestures, and specifically we are talking about mobile gestures inside of Adobe Animate. Now inside of Adobe Animate we have all sorts of pre-built gestures and commands that we can use that use ActionScript or Air for mobile. And just to show you really quick, there is a little templates button here. Sometimes it crashes when I use this, but when I go to templates, I can look at some pre-made templates. So for example, for Android, there's a swipe gallery that's already built using swipe gestures. We got option menus, we got accelerometer. For iOS, we have a bunch of different sizes depending on what we're programming for, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone, iPod. Alright, it depends on what we're doing here, but I'm just going to hit cancel for a second. Actually, we'll go back to general. Nope, I'll hit cancel. And we're going to go to Air for iOS. We're going to be building an iOS app. So we're going to click that, just as we have before. And we're going to fit it in the window, and we've got a brand new blank app right now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Control, and we're going to go to Test Movie, and I'm going to go in Mobile Debug Launcher. And when that loads up, something I'm sure you guys have already seen by now at this point, when that loads up, I'm going to get what's called the simulator. And this simulator allows me to see how it would look on a phone. And the cool thing about this is, one thing I like to do anyways, I go to settings, turn on auto orientation, and what that'll do is as I rotate my device in here, it'll rotate inside this simulator. So you see once it gets past a certain point, I think it's 45 degrees, it turns. Okay, but I'm going to just leave it at 0. But inside here we have something called touch and gesture. It's this little pull down here. And what we can do is we can simulate what it would be like to touch or make gestures on our document. And we can do that simply by turning on touch layer and telling Animate what kind of a gesture we want to make. Is it a swipe? Is it a 2-finger tap? Is it a zoom, which is like a pinch? You know, we can tell how much pressure we're going to put on that. How big is our finger? That's important sometimes. If you got fat fingers, it might be tough to do a super sensitive, little app or whatever, small buttons. So you can test all this. We're going to just close this for right now, and I'm going to show you how to actually add the gestures so that you can start creating something that uses them. Let's do this really simple. Let's go to our timeline. Now, in order for this to work properly, we need to make sure that a few things are understood. You need to know a little bit of ActionScript. And if you want to make it really advanced, then you need to know a lot of ActionScript. But I'm going to try to keep it super simple here. First of all, under our properties, window properties, you probably set this before, but we just want to double check to make sure our target is the latest Air version for iOS. Okay, that lets us preview it properly to make sure that it's working properly. What I'm going to do first off is I'm going to make a button. And actually before I do that, I'm going to just right-click the first frame, go to Actions, and I'm going to put a stop on this frame here. And if you remember what a stop does, it basically just tells it don't go past this point. Just leave it at this frame until I tell you to do something different. What we're going to do is we're going to take a rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Okay, double click it. Let's set it to maybe a color we can see, like red. Okay. There we go. Now, if I double click this rectangle and I make it or convert it into a symbol, I'm going to call it test button. Or actually, let's call it gesture button. Make sure it's a movie clip and hit OK. So we've got an object called gesture button here. And now we can do something with this. Now, without me spending too much time going through all of them, I'll show you some of the most popular ones. If we want to add a gesture to an object, a mobile gesture inside of Animate, what we need to do first of all is to click this object, have it selected. And then we go to Window, Code Snippets, and inside of the ActionScript folder, you will see we have well, actually more than that, 5 folders that are all related to mobile. We got mobile touch events, mobile gesture events, mobile actions, air for mobile, and just air. Okay? And each one of these is going to have some feature maybe that we want to add to our project. Okay? For example, if we say that we want to, let's go to the gesture events. Let's say we want, actually no, sorry, let's go to the tap event. Let's say we want this object to, let's say we want it to fade out a bit when we touch it and it'll go to another page. Let's add a tap event to this. Double click it. And it'll say that it's going to apply an instance name. We're going to say OK. And it's telling us that it has added multi-touch input to movie clip 1. A touch tap has been added. And what we can see down here is that when we touch it, the alpha or the transparency of that object goes down to 50%. All right, let's leave it at that and let's see what happens when we actually try that in the simulator. Okay, if I go back to my document, and like I said, you don't have to know, I mean, you should know ActionScript. If you want to get into really complicated stuff here, you should know ActionScript. But we'll just look at the pre-built sort of actions here. If I go and I test that, you will now see that it doesn't do anything. It doesn't respond to me going over it at all. However, when I go to touch and gesture and I turn on touch layer and I click it, if I keep clicking it, every time I click it or tap it is what I'm doing, the opacity of it goes down 50% until it totally disappears. Okay? So we basically just added a super simple touch event to that. Now let's say we want to customize this a little bit. Let's say we want to add another scene. So let's go and create another scene here. Just going to my scene window, window scene, scene 2 now. And let's right away put a stop. Let's put a stop on the first frame of scene 2. Okay, so now scene 2 has a stop. And let's put a circle here just to know that we have gone to that second scene. Now it could be anything, it could be a picture, it could be whatever we want here. But we went to the second scene. So we'll know we're there when we see the green circle. I'll just switch back to scene 1. What we can do is we can combine our knowledge of ActionScript with gestures. So if I go to my actions, for example, and I switch back to my frame 1 action right here, you can see that it has added it to this button Now, if I know a little bit of ActionScript, I don't need to know a lot to make this work. I'm going to say go to and play. Oops, and play. And it's very important you capitalize the word and play. And let's say frame 1 of capital S, scene 2. Okay? So when we click, or when we tap that object, it's going to go 50% alpha, but it's also going to go to the next scene as well. Okay, that's why it's saying in the comments here, put your custom code inside here to make it do something. Okay, now let's test that out. If I go and test this now, when I click that, nothing will happen here, all right, until I turn on my touch and gesture, touch layer, click it. Now it goes to scene 2 and it waits for me to go somewhere else. So I've added a very simple touch gesture, and that is allowing me to go to that next scene. All right? Now let's say I want to get a little bit fancy here. Let's say I want to add multiple types of gestures and different types with different objects. So let's say, for example, I have a circle on this same layer. Okay? I'm going to put a circle here. I don't want to go green again. I'll pick a different color. Now this could be a picture. This could be a graphic. It could be pretty much anything. Let's say on this object, first I'm going to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to call it gesture button, or let's call it just gesture object. That makes more sense. Gesture object, hit OK. And now let's say we want this object to be able to zoom in when we pinch on it. Okay, we want it to be scalable when we pinch it. So, as predicted, I'm sure you guys already kind of have an idea. We can go to our code snippets, and we can use a pinch to zoom event on this guy. So we double click it. It'll say it needs to add an instance name, say OK. And now we can test that. And when we come in here, nothing looks different. Remember that this still has the touch gesture on it. So if I click it, it's going to take me to scene 2. But for this one, let's say I do a zoom gesture. Now this is kind of interesting how this works. It says click to place your first point, which is basically your left finger. Click to put your right finger. Oops. Click, click. Now look at that. So this is as if our fingers are pinching that area, and look how it affects that circle. Kind of cool. Alright, and if we want it to scale proportionally, we can do that too. But you can see how we have control, and if we do it this way, we can pinch that and it's going to scale it. If we do it here, nothing happens, okay? You can see how it works proportionally anywhere else. Pretty cool. If we switch back to just a tap, okay, so click and drag or press and tap on this guy, it should have allowed us to go and proceed to the next frame, but for some reason that's not working. It might be because they're on the same layer. I might have to put them on 2 separate layers. That's fine. Okay, but you get the point. It does work. All right. Let's try something else. Perhaps we are creating an image gallery, and we have all of our photos on separate frames. Okay, so on this frame I've got these photos, I'll just add one more object here. Let's make it green. And let's say in our timeline we add a secondary frame. We'll just insert a blank keyframe. Insert blank keyframe on both. And now let's say we have another rectangle. This one is maybe purple. I'm just going nuts on rectangles today. We're going to put a stop on this scene, always. It's one of the first things I always do when I create a new frame, is I put a stop on it. And let's say now going back on this object, we're going to convert it to a symbol. We'll call it gesture object 2. Let's say on this object, when we swipe it, it goes to the next scene. Oh, sorry, next frame. Okay. And we could also do the next scene, so we could store it in scenes as well, but I'm going to just do it in frames. So let's say this goes to the next frame when we swipe it. It adds it nicely. And if we go to test that, we can kind of predict what's going to happen. That when we swipe on that, it should go to the purple. Scene. So watch, if I swipe on that, it goes to the purple scene. You can see how that works nicely. And it just lets me keep swiping through it, actually, which is kind of cool. I don't know why that works. It shouldn't work like that. But you can see as I swipe through, I can go through my document that way. All right. So without me going through any more, because I think it's kind of obvious for the most part of what it's going to do, we can add tap events, touch and drag events. So if we want to move an object by touching it and dragging it, that's kind of cool. What happens when we press something for a long time, if we long press it? 2-finger tap, pinch to zoom, we just looked at. Okay, we want to pan an object across a viewable area, rotate an object, swipe events like we just looked at. These are pre-built. Swipe to go to next frame, next scene. This one's cool. Move with accelerometer. So as you speed up your device, as you move your device, this affects an object in a certain way. Okay, and again, you can go into looking at more advanced stuff. Deactivate an event, menu key. We got a few more in here, like your geolocation, which is kind of cool. You can use that in a number of ways. Let's say you have a map and you want it to show where you are. Okay, reorient object on device rotation. I didn't show this one, but it's an important one. If you want an object to rotate when your device turns, you need to add this to it so that you tell it how it's going to rotate when your phone turns. Okay? And these are pretty complex stuff here. Okay? The air commands. Like I said, you can get really complicated with this stuff. I'm going to just keep it simple for you guys. If you want to add simple gestures, that's how you do it. Alright, so you can see you don't have to be a coding master. A lot of the preset code snippets will do a lot of cool things for you already. And you can make simple navigation with the tap commands, as long as you know things like go to and play, which is very useful. And you can also do the pinch zoom, all that good stuff pretty quickly, pretty easily. All right. So hopefully that helps. Now you know at least how to add gestures to your apps. Like I said, I kept it pretty basic, but that is how you do it. So hopefully you found that useful. Make sure you save this and continue on with your apps. Thanks for watching.